Mechanics absolutely hate when drivers know these secrets. Why? Because they make engines last 300,000 plus miles instead of dying at 150,000. No expensive rebuilds. No $5,000 replacement scam. In fact, the right habits can double your engine's lifespan. With the right care, even an older car can run smoother than new and last well past 300,000 miles. Dealerships hope you never learn this, because if you did, you'd stop handing over your wallet every time they shake their head and say, "It's time for a rebuild." Stay with me until the end. The final habit decides how long your car actually lasts. Ignoring it could lead to catastrophic failure. Habit number 10, regular oil changes. Engines don't usually die overnight. They wear down slowly, and the number one silent killer is neglecting oil changes. Oil change every 5,000 miles or 6 months. This simple step is the foundation of engine health. Skip it, and the consequences add up quickly. Engine oil has 3 critical jobs. It lubricates moving parts, reduces heat, and carries away contaminants. When oil breaks down, it can't do any of these well. That's when sludge forms, oil passages clog, and bearings starve. One $50 oil change can save you from a $4,200 engine rebuild. We saw a Honda owner who stretched oil changes to 12,000 miles, thinking modern cars could handle it. The sludge buildup choked his oil pump, and the engine seized at just 118,000 miles. Compare that to a rideshare driver who stuck religiously to the 5,000-mile interval. His Toyota Corolla crossed 350,000 miles on the original engine. Synthetic oil is worth the extra cost. It resists breakdown under heat, flows better in cold starts, and provides superior protection for turbocharged and direct injection engines, which run hotter and harder than older designs. In fact, automakers like BMW and Mercedes won't even recommend conventional oil anymore because synthetic keeps engines cleaner. Oil filters are just as important. A cheap clogged filter bypasses dirty oil straight into the engine. Always replace the filter with every oil change. Skipping it is like washing your hands in dirty water. Think about this. A neglected oil change might seem like saving $50, but in reality, you're gambling with repairs costing thousands. Be honest. When was your last oil change? If you can't remember, your engine can't either. Follow the 5,000-mile or 6-month rule, and you'll dramatically extend your engine's life. But oil is just the beginning. Wait until you see what ignoring brake fluid did to my neighbor's car. Other fluids protect just as much. One of the most overlooked is brake fluid, and ignoring it can cost you both money and safety. Quick reminder, if you're learning something new here, hit that subscribe button now. Habit number 9. Replace brake fluid. Brake fluid is one of the most overlooked fluids in a car. Unlike oil, there's no reminder sticker on your windshield, and most drivers don't even know it needs to be replaced. Yet it plays a critical role. It's what transfers the force from your foot on the brake pedal into stopping power at the wheels. Without healthy brake fluid, even the best brakes in the world won't work properly. Here's the key fact. Brake fluid is hygroscopic, which means it absorbs water over time. As moisture seeps into the system through hoses and seals, the fluid's boiling point drops. Under heavy braking, like driving down a mountain pass or making repeated hard stops, that contaminated fluid can actually boil, turning into vapor. The result? A soft pedal, or in worst cases, complete brake failure. The service interval is clear. Brake fluid, every 3 to 5 years. Ignore it, and you risk more than just poor braking. That water also causes corrosion inside sensitive components like calipers, master cylinders, and ABS pumps. A Subaru Outback owner we saw put this off for years. When tested, her fluid had 4% water content. That tiny amount was enough to corrode her ABS pump, leaving her with a $1,200 repair bill. The service itself? Barely $100. Think of brake fluid changes as cheap insurance. Fresh fluid restores braking performance, prevents corrosion, and keeps modern electronic systems like ABS and traction control functioning correctly. Yet studies show most drivers never change it at all. So ask yourself, when was the last time you replaced your brake fluid? If the answer is never, your safety and your wallet are already at risk. And if you think this is costly, just wait until you hear what happens when transmission fluid is ignored. Habit number 8, transmission and differential fluids. If there's one repair mechanic dreads, it's a transmission rebuild. They're complicated, time-consuming, and extremely expensive, often costing between $3,500 and $6,000. And here's the shocking truth. The majority of transmission failures aren't because of faulty parts, they're because owners neglected fluid changes. Transmission fluid isn't just a lubricant, it also cools the transmission, maintains hydraulic pressure, and carries away microscopic metal shavings from normal wear. Over time, heat breaks it down, turning it from a bright red, slippery liquid into a dark, burnt-smelling fluid that can no longer do its job. Once that happens, gears slip, clutches burn, and eventually, the transmission fails. Here are the exact intervals. Transmission fluid, every 60,000 miles or 6 years. Hybrid transmission fluid, every 80,000 miles. Automatic transmission fluid, 60,000 to 80,000 miles. Front plus rear differential fluid, every 30,000 miles. Transfer case fluid, 4-wheel drive, every 30,000 miles. Each one has its own role, and neglecting any of them can cripple your drivetrain. Take differentials, for example. They allow your wheels to rotate at different speeds when turning. Differential fluid lubricates those gears under extreme pressure. When ignored, metal-on-metal contact causes whining noises, overheating, and gear failure. A rebuild can run $2,000 or more. Transfer cases in 4-wheel drives are equally vulnerable. Skip the fluid change, and you risk losing all-wheel traction when you need it most. One rideshare driver with a Honda Accord stuck religiously to the 60,000-mile fluid rule, and his original transmission lasted past 240,000 miles. Another driver ignored hers completely, and by 120,000 miles, her transmission self-destructed. The repair? $4,800. So here's the question. Have you ever changed your transmission or differential fluid? For most drivers, the answer is no, but it's the difference between decades of smooth driving and one of the most expensive repairs you'll ever face. And while fluids protect what's hidden inside your drivetrain, your engine also relies on something just as vital, clean air. That's why the next habit saved someone from a $4,800 transmission rebuild last month. Habit number 7. Change air filters. Air is your engine's oxygen, and just like humans, your car can't perform if it can't breathe. That's why clean air filters are critical. They keep dirt, dust, pollen, and even small debris from entering the intake system and damaging sensitive components. When filters clog, the engine is starved of oxygen, which leads to sluggish acceleration, reduced fuel economy, and unnecessary strain on internal parts. Here's what they don't tell you about intervals. Cabin air filter, once annually. Engine air filter, every 12,000 miles or 1 year. Yet most drivers don't follow them, often waiting until symptoms appear. By then, performance has already been compromised. A Chevy Malibu came into the shop with almost no power. The owner was convinced the transmission was failing. In reality, the engine air filter was so caked with dirt, it looked like a mud pie. Replacing it for just $25 instantly restored power. What could have been a $2,000 transmission job ended up being a 10-minute fix. But here's the kicker. It's not just the engine filter. The cabin air filter, though often ignored, is just as important. A clogged cabin filter restricts airflow through the HVAC system, forcing the blower motor to work harder until it burns out. A $400 repair. On top of that, dirty cabin filters circulate dust, mold, and allergens right into the passenger compartment. Here's the kicker. Dirty filters don't just reduce comfort, they can cause chain reactions. Restricted airflow makes the engine run rich, which fouls spark plugs, damages oxygen sensors, and even clogs catalytic converters. That turns a $25 part into repairs costing thousands. So ask yourself, what's the dirtiest filter you've ever seen? Some look like mouse nests or are filled with leaves and bugs. The bottom line is simple. Filters are cheap, but ignoring them is one of the costliest mistakes you can make. And while clean filters keep your engine breathing, your safety still depends on the parts that connect you to the road, your tires, and brakes. Quick question, when's the last time you actually looked at your air filter? Comment below with what you found. Habit number 6, tires and brakes. Your engine might run flawlessly, but if your tires and brakes fail, none of that performance matters. These components are your car's first line of defense when it comes to safety, yet they're also among the most neglected. Skipping maintenance here doesn't just risk expensive repairs, it risks lives. The recommended intervals are straightforward. Tire rotation, every 5,000 miles. Balance tires, every 10,000 miles. Alignment, as needed. Brake pads, every 30 to 50,000 miles. Rotors, every 50,000 miles. Calipers, every 75 to 100,000 miles. Tires, every 5 to 7 years. Following these ensures that your stopping distance stays short and your car handles as designed. Here's why it matters. As tires age, even if they still have tread, the rubber hardens and cracks. A blowout at highway speed can send a car spinning out of control. One customer drove on 10-year-old tires that looked fine. One blew out at 70 miles per hour, nearly causing a multi-car accident. The cost of new tires would have been around $400. The cost of neglect? Potentially priceless. Brakes tell a similar story. A delivery driver once bragged about squeezing 80,000 miles out of his pads, but by then, the pads had worn down to metal, grinding against the rotors and seizing the calipers. Instead of a $200 pad replacement, he faced a $1,600 repair bill. Brake neglect doesn't just hurt your wallet, it puts everyone on the road at risk. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, NHTSA, reports that tire issues alone cause over 11,000 crashes annually in the US. That's not a small number. Regular rotation, inspection, and timely replacements don't just save money, they can save lives. So take a minute to think. How old are your tires right now? Go check. That simple step might be the difference between a safe stop and a catastrophic accident. But even if your tires grip the road and your brakes stop on a dime, none of it matters if your car won't start. That's why the next habit is all about your battery and spark plugs. Habit number 5, battery and spark plugs. Few things are more frustrating than turning the key and hearing nothing but silence. The battery and spark plugs may seem small compared to an engine or transmission, but without them, your car won't even start. Despite their importance, they're among the most overlooked maintenance items. The service intervals are clear. Battery, every 5 to 6 years. Iridium spark plugs, every 100 to 120,000 miles or 10 years. Copper spark plugs, every 30,000 miles. These intervals exist for a reason. Batteries degrade with every hot summer, cold winter, and daily start cycle. Spark plugs wear with every ignition, slowly losing their ability to fire efficiently. A reports that dead batteries account for 24% of all roadside breakdowns. A Chevy Equinox owner learned this the hard way when her 7-year-old battery gave out late at night in a deserted parking lot. The tow and replacement cost her triple what a scheduled service would have. Spark plugs are equally critical. Worn plugs can cause misfires, rough idling, poor fuel economy, and sluggish acceleration. Worse yet, Misfires send raw fuel into the exhaust, damaging oxygen sensors and catalytic converters. That $20 plug replacement suddenly turns into a $2,500 converter job. Modern engines are especially sensitive to plug health. Direct injection and turbocharged engines demand strong, precise sparks to avoid detonation and knocking. A weak plug can upset the entire combustion process, reducing performance and increasing wear across the engine. The consequences extend beyond reliability. Bad plugs make engines burn more fuel, raising emissions and costing more at the pump. A weak battery stresses the alternator, which in turn shortens its lifespan, another $600 repair. So here's the question. Have you ever been stranded by a dead battery or limped home on a misfiring engine? It happens more often than most drivers admit. Replacing your battery and plugs on schedule is one of the cheapest ways to keep your car running strong and dependable. And while a healthy spark keeps the engine firing, it won't matter if the engine can't breathe properly. That's why the next habit focuses on two overlooked components: the PCV valve and throttle body. Habit number 4, PCV valve and throttle body. Think of your car's engine like a set of lungs. Just as humans need clean, unrestricted airflow to breathe, your engine relies on a clear throttle body and a properly functioning PCV valve. Neglecting these two inexpensive parts can lead to stalling, leaks, rough idling, or sluggish performance. Here are the critical intervals. PCV valve, every 50,000 miles. Clean throttle body, every 25 to 50,000 miles. The PCV, positive crankcase ventilation valve, has a simple but vital job. It regulates the flow of gases from inside the engine back into the intake, preventing pressure buildup. When it clogs, that pressure forces oil past seals and gaskets, leading to leaks, sludge buildup, and even blown seals. For a $15 to $20 part, skipping it often leads to repairs that cost over $1,500. The throttle body is another small but powerful player. Carbon deposits build up around the throttle plate, restricting airflow. This makes the car idle roughly, hesitate under acceleration, or even stall. A Civic owner once complained his car kept shutting off at stoplights. The fix? A 10-minute cleaning with a $10 can of throttle body cleaner. Instantly, the engine ran like new. Modern engines with electronic throttle controls are even more sensitive. A sticky throttle body can confuse the ECU, throwing error codes and reducing throttle response. That laggy feeling many drivers assume is transmission-related is often just a dirty throttle body. It's easy to ignore these small parts because they don't always show dramatic symptoms right away. But the damage builds quietly, reducing efficiency and stressing other systems. For the cost of a tank of gas, you can restore performance and avoid much bigger headaches. And while the PCV valve and throttle body keep your engine breathing smoothly, the next components are even more critical. Belts that, if neglected, can destroy your engine in seconds. Pause here. Have you ever had a car stall at a red light? That was probably a dirty throttle body. Habit number 3, belts and timing components. Few parts in your car are as critical or as dangerous to neglect as belts. They're the unsung heroes that keep everything synchronized. A snapped belt doesn't just stop your car. In many engines, it can destroy it instantly. Here are the key intervals. Serpentine belt, 50,000 to 100,000 miles, based on inspection. Timing belt, 60,000 to 100,000 miles, based on inspection. The serpentine belt is responsible for powering essentials like the alternator, water pump, and power steering. If it fails, your car loses charging, steering assist, and cooling all at once. That's not just inconvenient, it can leave you stranded on the side of the road with an overheated engine. The timing belt is even more critical. It synchronizes the crankshaft and camshaft, so that pistons and valves move in perfect harmony. In interference engines, which make up the majority of modern vehicles, if that belt snaps, pistons and valves collide. The result? Bent valves, cracked pistons, and often a complete engine rebuild. The cost? Upwards of $8,000. A friend of mine once delayed his timing belt replacement, thinking he could stretch it a little longer. At just 85,000 miles, the belt snapped. The repair quote exceeded the value of the car, and he ended up scrapping it. Compare that to a fleet customer who stuck to the 60,000-mile rule. His cars regularly passed 250,000 miles without a single catastrophic belt failure. Here's the reality. Belts don't usually show obvious signs of wear until it's too late. By the time cracks and fraying are visible, you're already gambling with disaster. Proactive replacement is the only safe strategy. And while belts can instantly destroy an engine, the next habit is about prevention before you even leave your driveway, checking vital fluids before long drives. Habit number 2, fluids before long drives. Long road trips are when small problems turn into big ones fast. Hours of driving at highway speeds, climbing mountain passes, and carrying heavy loads put maximum stress on your engine and braking system. That's why checking fluids before any long drive is one of the smartest habits you can build. The critical intervals are non-negotiable. Brake fluid, every 3 to 5 years. Oil change, every 5,000 miles or 6 months. Coolant, not antifreeze, every 50,000 miles or 5 years. Brake fluid is the first line of defense. On long downhill grades like mountain passes, brakes heat up quickly. Old, moisture-filled fluid boils under heat, causing the pedal to sink and braking power to vanish. A family once skipped a pre-trip inspection before heading into the Rockies. Halfway down a steep descent, their brakes faded. They ended up needing a tow, an overnight hotel stay, and $1,500 in repairs, not to mention the risk of losing control. Oil is next. Long drives in summer heat push engines to their thermal limits. Old oil loses viscosity and can't protect bearings under heavy load. A simple $50 oil change beforehand can prevent rod knock, overheating, or even a seized engine hundreds of miles from home. Then there's coolant. Its job is not just preventing overheating, but also protecting gaskets and internal passages from corrosion. Neglected coolant turns acidic and eats away at head gaskets and radiators. A warped cylinder head from overheating can cost $2,000 or more, all because of skipped maintenance. The takeaway? A 5-minute fluid check before a road trip can save thousands and spare you the nightmare of being stranded far from home. And while fluids protect you on the road, the final habit goes beyond any single repair. It's the master habit that keeps your entire car running like new. Habit number 1. Build a personal maintenance log and routine. The single most powerful habit for engine longevity isn't just changing oil or swapping filters, it's keeping track of everything in a personal maintenance log. This master habit ties all the others together and turns scattered upkeep into a reliable routine. Neglect often isn't about not caring, it's about forgetting. Without a record, it's easy to lose track of when the oil was last changed, if the coolant was flushed, or whether the timing belt is overdue. A log makes you accountable, and accountability saves engines. The format doesn't matter, notebook, spreadsheet, or app, as long as you record mileage, date, and service performed. This keeps you on schedule and even boosts resale value by proving care. The results are clear. A Chevy Silverado owner logged every service and reached 320,000 miles on the original engine. Meanwhile, a Ford Escape owner guessed her coolant was fine. It wasn't. The engine overheated and cost $2,400. Fleets, taxis, and police cars push past 300,000 miles because they follow strict schedules. You can do the same with a simple log. Stick to it, and you'll save thousands while enjoying a car that stays dependable year after year. Thanks for watching. Got your own car maintenance wins or horror stories? Drop them in the comments. Want more money-saving car care secrets? Click the video on the left. And for simple tricks to keep your ride running forever, hit that subscribe button now.